What if I told you an ancient symbol, worshipped by civilizations, hidden in plain sight, controls the very fabric of our reality? From the Kaaba in Mecca to the logos of the world's most powerful corporations, the Black Cube of Saturn isn't just a relic of the past, it's the invisible cage around modern humanity. Today, we expose its secrets and how to break free. Welcome to today's video. We're diving into a fascinating and mysterious topic, the Black Cube of Saturn. This is something that every spiritualist needs to understand, not just from a historical perspective, but from a deeper spiritual one. The Black Cube has been a symbol of power, control, and restriction throughout human history, and today, we will explore its true meaning from ancient civilizations to its presence in modern-day society. We will uncover the layers of its symbolism and how it ties into the energies of Saturn, often seen as a taskmaster or teacher in astrology. But there's more to it than just astrological significance. The Black Cube represents the boundaries that shape our lives, the limitations we face, and the forces that seek to keep us confined in the material world. This video is going to open your eyes to the profound influence of the Black Cube on both our inner and outer worlds. So whether you are someone who's already familiar with Saturn and its teachings, or someone new to this concept, stick around as we break down the story of the Black Cube and why it's crucial for every spiritual seeker to understand its message and symbolism. By the end of this video, you'll gain a deeper insight into how the Black Cube of Saturn impacts your spiritual journey and how to break free from its influence. Let's get started. The Black Cube of Saturn is a powerful and mysterious symbol that has been present in various cultures and spiritual traditions throughout history. It is often associated with the planet Saturn, which is known in astrology as the planet of structure, discipline, and limitation. Saturn represents boundaries, roles, and the material world, and the Black Cube serves as a representation of these very forces. But what exactly does the Black Cube signify at its core? It symbolizes control, restriction, and the physical world's limitations. It's a symbol that represents the material plane, the ego, and the boundaries that keep us from transcending into higher states of consciousness. In its most basic form, the cube is a geometric shape. It is a solid structure with equal sides representing stability and order. But when the color black is added, it shifts the meaning to something much darker. The blackness symbolizes the unknown, the unconscious, and often the hidden forces that influence our lives. Many ancient cultures have referenced the Black Cube in different forms in ancient Mesopotamia. For example, the cube was associated with the god Saturn, and later became linked to the god of time and order, Kronos. In the Hebrew tradition, the Black Cube takes form in the structure of the Kaaba, the sacred site in Mecca. For Muslims, the Kaaba is a representation of the oneness of God. But when examined esoterically, it holds deeper meanings connected to Saturn's restrictive energies. This cube is often seen as a symbol of the material world's constraints, both external and internal. It is said that the Black Cube holds power over humanity, trapping us in a cycle of materialism, illusion, and ego. It is the physical embodiment of the forces that seek to keep us from achieving spiritual freedom. So when we talk about the Black Cube of Saturn, we are referring to much more than just a geometric shape. It is a powerful symbol of the boundaries that we must break free from in order to evolve spiritually. It's a reminder that in order to reach higher states of consciousness, we must transcend the limitations of the physical world and the ego's control over our lives. The historical significance of the Black Cube of Saturn stretches back thousands of years. It has appeared in various cultures, religions, and traditions, where it has held a deep and often mysterious meaning in ancient Mesopotamia. For example, the Black Cube was directly associated with the god Saturn, who was viewed as the god of time, structure, and order. Saturn's energy was seen as both nurturing and restrictive, helping civilizations to build stable structures, while also keeping them confined within limits. This duality is reflected in the Black Cube, which symbolizes the tension between order and limitation, between creation and control. In ancient Babylon, The black cube was believed to represent the material world's constraints. It was seen as a force that both shaped and restricted human existence. Some scholars believe that the black cube in Babylonian culture also symbolized the control over fate and the unknown, further linking it to Saturn's influence over time and destiny. The black cube also holds a strong place in the Abrahamic religions, particularly in the form of the Kaaba in Mecca. The Kaaba, a massive black stone structure, is considered one of the holiest sites in Islam, and millions of Muslims travel to it every year. For the Hajj pilgrimage, esoterically, many believe that the Kaaba is a physical manifestation of the Black Cube of Saturn, while the Kaaba represents the oneness of God and submission to His will. It also serves as a symbolic representation of the constraints of the material world. The black cube in this context reminds us of the boundaries we must transcend in our spiritual journey. The ancient Egyptians also made reference to the black cube, with its geometric shape representing the stability and order of the universe. The Egyptians understood the importance of sacred geometry, and the cube was seen as a building block of creation. However, it was also seen as a reminder of the limitations of the physical world and the need to transcend them in order to reach higher states of consciousness. As we move into the modern world, the black cube's historical significance remains potent. It appears in many forms, including in certain government buildings, corporations, and even in popular culture. Its influence is not limited to the past, but still active today. In fact, many believe that the black cube represents the hidden forces of control that shape our world, whether it is in the form of governmental power, corporate control, or the unseen influences of the elite. The black cube serves as a reminder of the material world's restrictions and the power of those who seek to control the collective consciousness throughout history. The black cube has been a symbol of both creation and limitation. It has been used to represent the power of Saturn, the taskmaster god of time, but also the force that keeps humanity trapped in the physical world. It's a symbol that reminds us of the need to break free from these restrictions in order to achieve spiritual liberation. When we dive into the esoteric and occult views of the Black Cube of Saturn, we uncover layers of meaning that go beyond its historical and physical significance. The Black Cube is not merely a symbol of restriction and control. It represents the very forces that shape our reality. And in many occult traditions, it is seen as a symbol of the material world, a world that keeps us bound to the ego. The Black Cube is often connected to the concept of the Saturn matrix, an idea that suggests that Saturn, through its energy, creates a framework that confines human consciousness, trapping us in a repetitive cycle of limitation, illusion, and egoic identification. Many occultists believe that the Black Cube serves as a representation of this matrix, a construct that we must break free from in order to achieve spiritual freedom. The Saturnian influence is often associated with time structure and the physical realm, but it is also seen as a force that imposes boundaries on our consciousness. The Black Cube in this context symbolizes the physicality of existence and the limitations that come with it, but it also represents the challenge of transcending these boundaries. The occult view is that to reach higher states of consciousness, we must face and ultimately overcome these limitations. One of the key aspects of the Black Cube in esoteric traditions is its connection to the concept of materialism. Many occultists argue that the Black Cube is a symbol of the material world's grip on the human soul. It represents the material desires, the attachment to the physical realm, and the ego that keeps us focused on external appearances rather than inner growth. In this sense, the Black Cube is seen as a trap, a prison that prevents us from awakening to our true spiritual nature. Some spiritual teachers even claim that the Black Cube is a representation of the false self, or the ego, which keeps us locked in a state of ignorance and separation. The only way to transcend this false self, according to occult teachings, is to go within and confront the limitations that Saturn imposes on our consciousness. Another important aspect of the Black Cube in esoteric teachings is its relationship to the concept of self-mastery. Saturn, as the god of time and discipline, is often seen as a taskmaster, a force that demands structure and order. But in the occult view, it also represents the need for inner discipline and self-control to master the self, to rise above the ego, and to navigate the challenges of life with wisdom and awareness. Occult traditions often view Saturn's lessons as harsh but ultimately necessary for spiritual growth. The Black Cube is thus a symbol of these challenges. It serves as a reminder that growth and awakening require effort, struggle, and discipline, but also a willingness to break free from the illusion of the material world and the control of the ego. In many occult practices, the Black Cube is seen as a doorway to spiritual transformation, but it is not an easy path. It requires confronting our deepest fears, desires, and attachments. It requires shedding the false self and moving beyond the constraints of the material world to step into a new level of consciousness where we are no longer limited by the illusions of the ego in esoteric and occult traditions. The Black Cube is not just a symbol of oppression, but also a tool for transformation. It represents both the prison of the material world and the potential for liberation from it, and those who are willing to face its challenge to confront the Saturnian forces of limitation may ultimately break free from the cycle of the material world and ascend to higher states of awareness. And being Saturn plays a significant role in spiritual development, although it is often seen as a planet of restriction and challenge. Saturn's energy is actually deeply connected to growth, discipline, and maturity. It is the planet that brings structure and order into our lives, which is essential for any kind of true spiritual progress. Without structure, there can be no real growth, and this is why Saturn's influence is so important in the spiritual journey. Saturn teaches us lessons that are often difficult but necessary. Its energy brings us face to face with our limitations, our fears, and the aspects of ourselves that we might try to avoid in astrology. Saturn is often associated with the Saturn return, a time in our lives when we confront the consequences of our actions, choices, and the realities of aging. This is a pivotal moment in spiritual growth as we are forced to mature, take responsibility, and become more disciplined in how we approach life. But beyond the Saturn return, Saturn's influence continues to guide us through its role as the taskmaster. Saturn is seen as a teacher who challenges us to work hard, build lasting foundations, and overcome obstacles. It represents the law of cause and effect, the understanding that every action has a consequence in spiritual development. This principle is crucial because it teaches us that spiritual progress requires effort, dedication, and commitment. Without facing challenges, we would not grow spiritually, and without Saturn's lessons, we would remain stagnant in our development. Many spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of mastering the material world in order to transcend it, and this is where Saturn's role becomes even more important. Saturn's energy helps us face the physical world's challenges, teaching us how to navigate the limitations of the body, the ego, and the material plane as we master the material world. And the lessons Saturn provides, we can begin to transcend the illusions of the physical reality and move into higher levels of consciousness. Saturn's role in spiritual development is not to keep us trapped in the material world, but to help us break free from it in order to transcend the ego and the illusions that hold us back. The Black Cube of Saturn, as we've discussed, is a representation of these limitations, but it also holds the key to spiritual liberation, because in order to break free from these restrictions, we must first understand them. Saturn helps us recognize our attachments, our fears, and the false beliefs that keep us in the cycle of suffering. Once we confront these limitations, we can begin the work of transformation, turning the Black Cube from a symbol of confinement into one of liberation. In many spiritual practices, Saturn's energy is associated with wisdom, discipline, and maturity. These qualities are essential for any kind of awakening. Spiritual progress requires patience and perseverance, and Saturn's influence helps us develop these qualities. It teaches us that spiritual enlightenment is not a quick or easy process, but a lifelong journey that requires dedication, hard work, and self-discipline. Without Saturn's challenges, we would not develop the strength or wisdom necessary to navigate the deeper layers of the self. So when we look at Saturn's role in spiritual development, we see that while its energy can feel heavy and demanding, it is ultimately a force for good. It is the cosmic teacher that pushes us to face our limitations, to learn from them, and to ultimately transcend them. Saturn's influence is essential for those on the path of self-realization because it teaches us that true freedom comes not from escaping the material world, but from mastering it and moving beyond its illusions. In modern society, the Black Cube of Saturn still plays a significant role, though its symbolism is often hidden beneath the surface. Its presence can be found in many of the structures, systems, and symbols that shape our daily lives. In fact, some believe that the Black Cube represents the forces of control and limitation that permeate our society. Its geometric shape is used in architecture, art, and even corporate logos. In a more subtle but powerful way, many modern institutions, governments, and corporations seem to embody the essence of the Black Cube, representing the materialistic and hierarchical structures that dominate our world. The Black Cube serves as a reminder of the restrictions placed upon us by societal norms, systems, and even our own minds. It is said that the cube represents the way. We are confined to the physical world, constantly seeking material wealth and external validation while being disconnected from our true spiritual nature. One of the most prominent examples of the Black Cube in modern society is the structure of the Kaaba in Mecca. Though it has deep religious and spiritual significance for Muslims, when examined from an esoteric perspective, the Kaaba can be seen as a representation of the material world's constraints. Another example is the use of cubes and square shapes in the design of modern buildings, urban planning, and even in technology. These designs often symbolize stability, structure, and control, which are qualities that align with Saturn's energy. In corporate logos, the Black Cube can also be found. It symbolizes power, authority, and control. In a world where corporations hold vast influence, the Black Cube becomes a symbol of the materialistic forces that govern much of our lives. The focus on profit, success, and power keeps us trapped in the physical realm, distracted from spiritual awakening and personal growth. Additionally, the Black Cube is often associated with consumerism, where individuals are driven to accumulate wealth, status, and possessions, perpetuating the cycle of materialism and limiting our ability to connect with our deeper spiritual selves. Even within popular culture, the Black Cube can be seen in various forms, from science fiction films to art installations. It represents the darker side of the material world, the forces that keep us focused on the external, while distracting us from the internal journey of self-realization. Modern society, through its obsession with control, structure, and materialism, reflects the very energy of the Black Cube. It's a symbol of the forces that seek to keep us confined to the limitations of the physical world and prevent us from awakening to higher states of consciousness. The key challenge for us in this modern world is to recognize these forces and break free from them. Just as Saturn teaches us, we must confront and transcend the limitations imposed upon us, both externally and internally. Only by doing so can we begin to free ourselves from the grip of the Black Cube and embark on a path towards spiritual freedom and enlightenment. The spiritual significance of the Black Cube of Saturn goes far beyond its role as a symbol of materialism, limitation, and control. It is deeply intertwined with the journey of spiritual liberation and esoteric traditions. The Black Cube represents the physical world and the material constraints that we must transcend to achieve spiritual freedom. It is a symbol of the ego, the false self, and the attachments that keep us trapped in the cycle of suffering and illusion. Yet paradoxically, it also holds the key to liberation. For in order to transcend the material world, we must first confront and understand the limitations it imposes on us. The process of spiritual liberation involves recognizing the false constructs that bind us, and the black cube as a symbol forces us to face these realities head-on. Only by doing so can we begin the process of inner transformation. It is said that the black cube represents the prison of the soul, a prison that keeps us bound to the physical world and our egoic desires. But the moment we become aware of this, we take the first step toward liberation. For awareness is the key to freedom. When we recognize the illusions that the black cube represents, we can begin to free ourselves from them, much like how Saturn's influence teaches us to discipline ourselves and face challenges. The black cube is the catalyst for spiritual growth. It challenges us to break free from the limitations of the ego, the material world, and the distractions that keep us from our true essence. In many spiritual traditions, liberation is viewed as the process of transcending the physical world. And in this sense, the black cube represents the final barrier that we must overcome. Once we break free from the grip of the black cube, we are said to enter a state of higher consciousness, where we are no longer bound by the limitations of the physical realm. This state of liberation allows us to connect with our true spiritual nature and to access the deeper dimensions of the self. Some spiritual teachings describe this process as the awakening or enlightenment that occurs when we shed the illusions of the material world and the ego. The black cube, while it represents the barriers we face in our spiritual journey, also represents the potential for growth. For in overcoming it, we are able to access higher states of awareness. Spiritual enlightenment is not about escaping the physical world, but transcending it. It is about realizing that while we may live in a material world, we are not bound by it. By recognizing the black cube for what it truly is, we can start the work of breaking free from its hold. The journey of liberation is not easy, and it requires the courage to confront the parts of ourselves that we may not want to face. But the process of spiritual awakening is the ultimate freedom. The Black Cube of Saturn in all its manifestations serves as both the prison and the key. And it is through facing its challenges that we unlock the door to our true spiritual self. As we continue on our spiritual journey, we must embrace the lessons of the Black Cube and use them to guide us toward inner freedom. For only by breaking free from the confines of the material world can we truly awaken to the fullness of our being and step into the infinite possibilities of our spiritual existence. In conclusion, the Black Cube of Saturn is much more than just a symbol of restriction and control. It represents the very challenges we face on our spiritual journey. It is the embodiment of the limitations that keep us bound to the physical world and the ego. Yet within this very symbol lies the potential for profound transformation and liberation. Understanding the Black Cube allows us to recognize the forces that shape our lives, the structures that bind us, and the illusions we must transcend to reach higher states of consciousness. While Saturn's influence may feel heavy and demanding, it is ultimately a force that guides us toward maturity, wisdom, and spiritual growth. By confronting the Black Cube, we face the obstacles in our path and begin the process of inner liberation. The key to spiritual freedom lies not in escaping the material world, but in mastering it and recognizing the illusions that hold us captive. The journey of overcoming the Black Cube is one of self-awareness, discipline, and perseverance. It is about breaking free from the constraints of the ego and stepping into the true essence of who we are. Once we transcend these limitations, we can begin to awaken to a higher level of consciousness and truly experience spiritual freedom. As we move forward, we must remember that the Black Cube is both a challenge and a tool. It is the test that leads us to our liberation. So embrace the lessons it offers, confront the barriers it represents, and take the steps toward awakening to your true spiritual potential. Now you see the truth. The Black Cube is Saturn's ultimate test of consciousness. This ancient symbol of control surrounds us still, in the systems we obey and the illusions we accept. But here's the secret. Awareness breaks its spell. The moment you recognize these invisible walls, you begin dismantling them. Your awakening is Saturn's greatest fear. So keep questioning, keep seeking, and turn this cosmic test into your path of liberation. The choice was never theirs. It's always been yours.